Alright guys, let's take a look at the new Space Marines preview. This time it's for the Iron Hands. Let's dive in. Alrighty, so I've got the article up here. Preview the Sons of Manus. Full disclosure, I did glance through this and I'm really assured by what I saw. But let's go through it point by point and I'll give you my takeaways based on the details that are presented. So, of course, we have, in keeping with the previous post, the sweet banner featuring an awesome Iron Hands Primaris helmet. But what's lacking is a cinematic trailer like we saw with the Ultramarines and White Scars, which, I'm not gonna lie, is a little disappointing. In its place, we have a nice artwork, a nice bit of artwork here with this Iron Hand who's lost his Iron Hand and he's pissed, so he's probably gonna end this orc over here. Anyways, we have on the battlefield, the idea is they're dialing up their toughness to 11, or excuse me, they're dialing up the idea of them being tough. That they're not going to be toughness 11, but they're going to make them tougher on the battlefield. So I don't know if it's going to be Death Guard levels of resiliency, but based on what we see here, it's pretty good. So the first thing we preview here is the modification to their combat doctrine, and as we thought, or I guess as I suspected it'd be the Devastator doctrine, since the Iron Hands specialty is in their mechanized warfare with tanks and heavy weapons. So in the Devastator doctrine, Iron Hands units don't suffer the penalty from moving and firing with heavy weapons, and they get built-in rerolls of 1 when firing heavy weapons. Now, this in itself isn't as substantial as what we saw with the Ultramarines and White Scars, but we have to remember, I'm going to tab open this chapter tactic here that they previewed earlier. The Iron Hands have a very powerful chapter tactic in itself. 6 up, feel no pain, overwatch on 5s and 6s, and double damage. You can count your wounds as double for the purpose of determining your characteristics for units that degrade. So these two, in combination with each other, have some pretty effective synergy, because you can have a massed mechanized wall and maintain your effectiveness and maintain your accuracy of firepower using the reroll hit rolls of 1 that's offered by Calculated Fury. It's really reassuring. Like, just based on this alone, I feel pretty confident in saying that the Iron Hands they'll be able to do tanks better than any other Space Marine chapter. I'm certain of it. It seems like GW is really nailing the rules and allowing these sub-factions to have validity. Yeah, look at this sweet picture. Yeah, you would be able to run things like this better than other chapters could, regardless of how competitive a Land Raider is. Iron Hands will be able to do this kind of formation better than contemporaries. I mean, granted, the Ultramarines do have the ability to fire, or in the tactical doctrine, they can move and not count as having been moved, essentially giving them the perk of moving and firing heavy weapons. However, because the Iron Hands can do that in the Devastator doctrine, they'll be able to leverage that extra layer of AP. Which is not to be understated. I mean, based on that alone, you could have Last Cannon Predators or, Relic Contemptors with 4 Last Cannons at AP 4, whereas the Ultramarines at best would be able to move and shoot without penalty in the Tactical Doctrine, which is turn 2, not turn 1. And it'd only be AP 3, whereas the Iron Hands would be able to implement that mobility and accuracy on turn 1 and keep AP 4 Last Cannons. Long story short, I think Iron Hands are going to be wicked at using tanks. Okay, so we go on down here. Pretty sure this is an older photography that we've seen before. And they preview a Warlord trait. This one is... they say it's very interesting and tactically flexible, and I agree. The ability to move 6 inches when consolidating and not be forced to move closer to enemy models allows for, like they say here, defensive or offensive play, depending on what the situation demands. And it speaks to the, the cold logic of the Iron Hands, which is really, really cool. Next, we have a sample of one of their psychic powers from the Technomancy discipline. Gotta love it. So warp charge value of 5. You can select a unit within 12 inches, which is good. Doesn't say visible, which is nice. And until the start of your next psychic phase, add 1 to the hit roll. This is fantastic because now you, in effect, have prescience. And you can even use it on your Forge Roll Titanic units as well if you roll well enough. But a 5 isn't that bad. So most units can add 1 to hit roll if you have something extremely valuable that requires the buff. And there's also the general stratagem in the core codex, which is, it's not an Iron Hand specific stratagem anymore. They changed it to, let me look through here. Big guns never tire. Right. Okay, so that perk, that actually doesn't overlap at all. Excuse me. Because Iron Hands have that built in now with Cold Fury. Calculated Fury. If you're in the Devastator Doctrine, you don't need to waste CP on Big Guns Never Tire, because all your units have the ability to move and fire heavy weapons for free. Okay, so back down here. Yeah, this is excellent. Really fantastic, because as a Space Marines player, I was really disheartened to see how good the Chaos Space Marine psychic table was in comparison when 8th started. So it's really nice to see that the Iron Hands will be able to have a prescience-like ability. Okay, and we have the preview of a unique relic. Now this is... Excuse me, I actually was laughing I was giddy with joy, I guess you could say, when I read the Ironstone perk, because it'll allow the Iron Hands to field companies of tanks, or to give that feel anyways, right? Like a mechanized wall, advancing forward, all the units buffing other units. They already have a built-in rerolls of 1, and now you could give a lieutenant, let's say, who's accompanying a Tech Marine or Forge Father Farios, this relic, and now all those vehicles, providing he's within range of them, the ability to reduce damage by 1. Right? That's fantastic. That really nerfs the effectiveness of things like plasma or anything in the D3 damage category, because if your average is 2, you'll be brought down to 1. Okay, and we have a preview of their stratagem. And this one isn't... Right, so this stratagem here, it's, like I said, not super attractive, but it's pretty fluffy, and, it's situational, and it's not always going to be valuable, but that's fine because it's a stratagem, right? It'll probably be pretty fun. And that's pretty much the end of, the preview we got here. There's a name generator included, which is kind of neat. I like that. If you want to name your custom characters, you have those tools. So one thing that, there could be a grav-centric stratagem available here. I don't know if there is. However, keeping in mind the core codex stratagem for gravitic amplification, and, in concert with Calculated Fury, Iron Hands will actually be able to do really devastating turn 1 alpha strikes against armored units with Devastator squad, all with grav cannons and grav amps in a drop pod. Right? You could throw in some ablative Space Marines in there to fill out the unit, and throw in an Ancient into the drop pod too, if you wanted. Or you could do, 2 5-man Devastator squads, 1 with grav, 1 with heavy bolters. Either way, they're disembarking and moving, so they're not suffering a -1 to their hit rolls. In combination, they're rerolling hit rolls of 1, so they don't need a captain in there either. So I think that Iron Hand's Devastator drop pod Devastator squads with Gravcan and Gravamps and drop pods could definitely be a thing, because that's just an easy combo. And then, while your enemy's dealing with that, you have your armored phalanx of tanks just rolling up the board, taking less damage than they should, ignoring damage because of the flesh is weak, repairing damage with Tech Marines, and firing at a devastating efficiency with the Devastator Doctrine. I'm really excited. I mean, I've been so saddened over the course of 8th edition thus far for many chapters, but the Iron Hands were they had one of the weakest toolkits at the start of 8th edition, so it's really, I'm just really happy to see I'm just really happy to see this preview, because it gives me hope for my Iron Hands battle brothers out there they've bought all the models, painted all the models, poured their heart and soul into their army, and to now have good rule support. Well, simply, it's just a good thing. And I guess with that, I'll end this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Probably we're going to see a Raven Guard preview later this week, so I'll try and do a video for that as well. And if any Iron Hands players are watching, as an Iron Hands player, what are your takes on this preview? Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll hope to see you in the next one.